everybody and welcome to the program on mental health in family, school and workplace. The School of Social Sciences of IGNOU brings you this program. The present program relates to your PG Diploma in Mental Health program that is offered by the Discipline of Psychology under School of Social Sciences. The present program relates to your course MPC 053. In this program today, while discussing the mental health issues in the school context, we will be focusing mainly on three aspects, that is, first the mental health issues and problems faced by the school children. Second, we will be discussing about the manifestations and consequences of these problems, and finally we will be focusing on the intervention and the prevention strategies. So, the objectives of today's programs are, we will be focusing on the school related factors affecting the mental health of children, the different types of mental health issues and problems faced by the children, impact of mental health issues on children, intervention and prevention of mental health problems in the school context, strategies for promotion of mental health of children in the school, and finally the role of parents and teachers regarding this. So, we have with us today Dr. Jitendra Nagpal, Senior Consultant Psychiatrist and in charge of the Institute of Child Development and Adolescent Health at the Mulchand Medcity, New Delhi. Dr. Nagpal has vast experience in the field of child and adolescent mental health issues and promoting their mental health in the school context. He is extensively associated with the schools, providing orientation and guidance to the teachers, students and parents with regard to mental health of children and adolescents and promotion of school mental health. Dr. Nagpal is also the pioneer of the Expressions India program, which is a school based outreach program. The program focuses on life skills, value education and school wellness and aims at making children healthier and happier. So, welcome Dr. Nagpal to this program. Now, before we begin with the today's program, let us see this information provided by the WHO. It says that around 20% of the world's children and adolescents have mental disorders or problems. About half of mental disorders begin before the age of 14 and similar types of disorders are reported across cultures. Neuropsychiatric disorders are among the leading causes of worldwide disability in young people, yet regions of the world with the highest percentage of population under the age of 19 have the poorest level of mental health resources. So, with this information, now let us talk about school. School is the next place after family where the child spends a maximum time and has a great opportunity to develop herself as an individual. In the process of exploring herself, the child faces lot of physical and psychological stresses and the child needs to learn how to deal with these things. So, Dr. Nagpal, how does the school impact the mental health of children and why do we need to talk about mental health in the school context?
Well, nearly 40% of our population is children, and as we know, under the right to education, we are expecting millions of children to go to school in the next few decades. The mental health of any child is important from an holistic development, yes. You know, the psychological, the physical and the social development. It is not just about the mind, it is also about how adjustment, accommodation and maybe even acclimatization happens in those, as you said, in the 7-8 hours of being in the school. Yeah. And we all know the psychological sciences have been telling us through greater research that nearly 90% of the human brain in its basic function is complete by the age of 8 to 10 years. And so, these are the most impressionistic and the formative years, as you mentioned in the statistics. Nearly majority of the psychiatric or psychological problems are seen below 14 years. And that means it is a very good correlation that the atmosphere, the environment and the vulnerability of the child and the support given by the teachers, the parents and also the peer group has a great influence on the mental well-being in the context of the larger well-being of children. We know that health is important, physical, mental, social health, but mental health has not been a greater priority worldwide. So, the time has come when we have good research telling us about the statistics. It's time to look at well-being through the mental health of our children to make them sustainable in schools and to make them happy, healthy and harmonious citizens of the nation also.
Okay. So, what is the Indian scenario when we talk about school mental health? What is the prevalence of these disorders in the Indian context?
Well, most of the conservative estimates in the last about say 2 decades have told us, and good research has happened, The Government of India has done valuable research. The ICMR, the school scenario tells us that nearly about 10 to 12% of school going young people suffer from disorders of human behavior, learning and development. That itself is a remarkable research to tell us that we need to gear up our resources for handling the issues concerning the mental well-being and mental health of children. WHO has often been telling the world, and Southeast Asia is the focal point of the mental health scenario across the globe. So if the research is happening and multicentric studies even now being done by say NIMHANS and many other premier institutes in the country, and some of our research dealing with school mental health by Expressions India has also helped us know that teachers' viewpoint, the counselor's viewpoint also has to be taken into account to understand the prevalence and maybe the turnover of the problems that are happening in the 21st century. So statistically we have good research to support that school mental health promotion is a viable intervention to be taken up by all the stakeholders working for children.
As you said, there are like it is almost 12%.
Yeah.
I mean children who are
True.
facing mental and behavioral disorders in the school context.
Yes.
Now if you can specify what are the specific mental health issues and problems that the children face in the context of school?
Very important. In fact, the pedagogical training, which is teacher training and maybe school counselors training, though we don't have school counselors in our country as much as they are required, hardly maybe 10% of the schools have a school counselor. So to identify common problems and disorders which are seen are, say, problems of conduct disorders, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, the pervasive spectrum, the PDDs, the autism spectrum disorders. We see a lot of cases coming up with issues of child abuse and child depression, childhood anxiety. In very young children we see oppositional defiance, hostility, and to the point that yes, children might have separation anxiety disorders, they may have nightmares, they may have bedwetting. Bedwetting is a huge challenge for our nation. So these are about small children, and as we grow we know the transition point happens, and when children move into adolescence, the charm and the challenge and the chaos of adolescence, we see bullying, we see truancy, bunking the school, a sense of isolation. Adolescent depression is a huge challenge for our nation. There's enough research data to tell us. We see a spate of suicides happening in young people in school, and the reasons could be many. Violence and aggression is another major factor worldwide. Well, India is yet to see the different facets of school-based violence, but we see it in the US, we see it in the European continent. So, and drug abuse is one big challenge which is coming up. All forms of drugs, it's not just about alcohol and tobacco. We see a huge amount of illegal drugs coming into schools, and where do they come from? They come from peer pressure, they come from maybe accessibility outside the school, affordability in the urban culture. So these are factors which tell us that there is a huge spectrum of disorders, right from say nursery and kindergarten till the brink of adolescence, and self-harming tendencies are increasing in the later half of the adolescent group, which is about 14 to 18, related to many issues which were actually started in childhood. As we saw the previous slide, the beginning point, the root of mental health disturbance can start as early as 4 years, 5 years, and the peak point can be seen at the adolescent period.
As we see, the present generation child has a lot of exposure to the media also, including the social media. A lot of time of the children are spent in the social media like Facebook and other sites. So, the child comes across lot of information at such an early age, okay, and which can misguide the child also. Okay. So, what do you have to say on this particular aspect?
Ma'am, we are living in a world of great amount of social pressures, and media has a great impact and a great influence. We know about how electronic addiction has been found to be linked to mental illness in young people. There are greater studies happening worldwide. The impact of say computers, internet, video games, very important, because how aggression has been instigated, observational learning, the social learning theories have been put to testimony now. And we see how young people emulate aggression coming from the family environment, and they manifest bullying in the school. They see a lot of media display of say titillating sexuality and pornography, violence related factors, which could be even about drugs, gangs and guns. Now we see worldwide the phenomena of guns coming to schools. In the US we have heard about this, and therefore where does the electronic media stand? Is it a boon or a bane? We see it is a lot of boon. It has supported education in a big way. It has helped children to study the world under their feet, but it has a flip side also. It has led to a lot of damage in terms of impulsivity, in terms of immaturity in the rational use of the media. Say the Facebook, the WhatsApp, the Twitter. These are areas where monitoring is not happening for young people. Well, we can't blame children. After all, they are growing in a new generation for the first time. What we need to know is whether they are being tutored, they are being given the life skills, are they being helped to be self-empowered to use the media rationally. Otherwise, anger, aggression, defiance, hostility, drugs, emulating poor role models from the media like smokers and all those say types of music which is coming in. It is likely to influence the child development in a manner by giving them immediate gratification. Too much, too early and very easily given to them both by the media and the parents can actually have a devastating effect on the mental health. So overexposure of information technology, overexposure of say gadgets and gizmos, toys, this has had a great impact at least to the Indian child, because suddenly there has been freedom, liberty of everything, and easily available factors through the media make them go through the conflict of what is the sense of right and wrong, you know, the morality, and also the sense of what is healthy and unhealthy at what age in life. It could be appropriate or inappropriate. For example, a 7-year-old who's got an iPad and a iPhone latest advanced one is likely to misuse it because nobody has tutored that child how to use it properly. Similarly, the exposure to say psychedelic drugs in the musical world, the pop music, the 14-year-olds and 15-year-olds go to the pubs nowadays and they land up taking LSD, cocaine, which is never heard of in India, but we are hearing that now. We are seeing that happening, and lot of rehabilitation centers need to be there. We don't have them. So school mental health is the only answer we have for education system to incorporate. Prevention is better than cure.
And in this, I think the role of parents and teachers are more crucial when we talk about the, mental health of our children.
Absolutely, and especially a partnership between the school and the parent. In fact, I've been addressing thousands of parents in schools, and all of them agree that you know, it is not the enrollment of the child in the school, it is the enrollment of the family in the school. Because parents also become students while their child is studying in a good school, which talks of parental awareness. You just mentioned about how mental health awareness is our solidarity. So families and schools should join hands to promote mental health awareness, and it is not just mental health, it is about entire life of a child. You see, the children who are special needs children, the disability group, we should never forget that's a huge component. You know, the learning disabilities, sensory motor disabilities, we have disabilities of say visual handicap, hearing handicap. That's a huge area who also have psychological problems, because they are now being accommodated, and all of the children need to grow together. Every child in every environment through every type of teaching. That is the mantra of the day. So if all categories of children study in the same classroom, which is an inclusive school, we need to have the psychological support for their well-being, because each child has a unique need, and the teacher training needs to be, parental training needs to be there. So they need to work in partnership. Schools have to gear up to orient, educate, make the parents understand, and also take them along as partners in education, not as a party which is sending the child to the school. Child is only the bridge between the family, the community and the school. Well, the child may be the child-centric education today. The child may be the child-focused interactive education today. But families cannot be left behind, and families have to realize better the school, you have to gear up and become the partner in the latest happening in the education world. You should know that majority of the problems, sometimes the genetic disorders in mental health, sometimes the social learning theory of mental health, sometimes the way parents behave with each other are role models for children. And majority of the problems like aggression, violence, bullying, at times even smoking in the family, drinking in the family, alcohol, and also maybe the way we treat each other. you know, as you said, the family has a separate dimension in this course, but it influences the mental health of children in the school also, because children will carry what they learn from the family.
Yeah.
So teachers see the mental health of children in a big way, which is actually disturbing the school environment as well as the child getting disturbed from the school. So it is a cohesiveness that we need to generate as part of the larger school mental health, where we take the family, the school and the child together in this important program across the country.
So we can say that each child has unique needs, and we need to consider that.
Every child is unique, every child has a different dream in life. And I think the mental well-being of children needs to be respected, because even identical twins are never the same in their temperament. A lot of psychological studies about the temperament of children, about the mood of children, about the intelligence of children tell us that there is a huge amount of diversity in the same classroom.
Right.
We have multiple intelligences in every child, and we have multiple intelligent, emotionally different children in one classroom. So if diversity is the norm, then teachers need to be trained in a diversity mode.
Yeah.
Parents need to understand that no child can be the same as the parents are. So they need to respect the emotion, the intelligence and the ambition and the dreams of a child. Of course, healthy, positive disciplining with freedom that comes with responsibility as you grow into teenage, that should be taken into account. And where are doubts, go and ask the school teacher, the counselor. That is how partnership will happen. Because again, you see the disability that comes, the difficulty that comes by suffering a mental health disorder very early in life has got a huge liability on the growth of a human being. You see how many years are gone away trying to cope up with, say for example, drug abuse, for example, depression and onset of even schizophrenia. Now we see a bipolar disorder coming up in children, say 12 years, 13 years, manic presentation coming much earlier. So all kinds of mental health disorders, right from psychosis to say neurotic traits and certain personality problems, which are, as we know, classified in the ICD or DSM, are actually seen in children in school.
So all these are being manifested in the school children, given itself, the stressful situation that they are living in.
Absolutely.
So like what are the, how do they manifest these mental health problems that the children are facing? How it is manifested in the child's behavior, and how what is the role of a teacher, like what are the indicators we can say that the teacher can know, okay, the child might be facing some mental health problems?
Yes ma'am, there are flag signs, as you said rightly. Manifestation may happen in a very unremarkable, in a latent manner. Sometimes we may see just about a little change in the behavioral profile of a child from the regular pattern. For example, a child becomes restless, a little hyperactive. There may be a withdrawn child, there may be impulsivity happening. As we see here, there would be changes in the mode of dealing with other children in the classroom, disposition of anger, aggression, turning hostile, at times even becoming very introvert. Suddenly this child who's been participating in activities, he goes through a change where he is not only shy but also fearful, at times even phobic about interacting with other people. And as we say here, retreat from the exchanges of social interaction. Immaturity, well, we know that maturity is happening as a child. We are growing as children. Children cannot be just mature overnight, but inappropriately. We see the intensity and the frequency. Let's remember, the intensity and a frequency of any behavior or emotion which is inappropriate to a given age, and we need to watch out. And a teacher is the most important person in the life of a child in the school. Sometimes even parents do not know what the child would be like unless the teacher has told them. Many times we come across, rather most of the time, the problem may be in the family. The role modeling in a negative manner may be coming from the family. The child abuse may be in the family. But we see that manifestations happen in the adjustment of academics. Children find learning difficulties, they find difficulty in getting along with the peer group. As I said, they may have hostile behavior which has come out suddenly, and for the last about 2 to 3 weeks the teacher is seeing that here the child is not well adjusted with the classroom. He is not participating in the regular activities, and sometimes even threatening to self-harm or run away from the school. So these are all flag signs. And classroom management, the classroom management by a subject teacher or a class teacher has an immense amount of impact on studying the overall general behavior in the classroom. Wherever there is a deviation from the average pattern of discipline or behavior that is not being followed, or the children need your attention, they may not come and tell you, they may not come and tell the teacher, they may actually show it in the negativistic behaviors or their conduct, or their say indulgence in certain high risk behaviors like drugs or hostility in school or gang behavior. So it's a hallmark, it is a spark that tells us that this child needs help. And most of the time, though the, say for example, the adolescent may not be so much of a disturbed individual, but a disturbing individual. He may be causing chaos in the school, may be causing problem in the classroom, but when we interact with these adolescents, they are actually innocent young people who are going through a lot of their personal crisis. They have a low self-image, they have a low self-esteem, they actually are finding life very difficult. So sometimes certain behaviors are only meant to catch the attention of the teacher, and indirectly even the love and affection of a teacher or the principal or the school counselor. So are we prepared that at times we may be in a rush? Do not label the disorder, please. It is important to identify the problem, the nature of the difficulty, but not rush to diagnosing a disease or a disorder. You may leave that to the counselor or the professional attached to the school, the psychiatrist or the psychologist. But interacting with the parents and telling them that school refusal, temper tantrums, they all happened to all of us when we were children. They will happen even now. But is it intense? Is it frequent? Is it persistent? So there are signs. There are signs that a given problem could be intense, frequent and persistent. Call for help. Discuss it in the PTM. We are not rushing to diagnose. Let us make a team in the school and the parents' involvement and discuss how this can be identified first. So early identification of the flag signs and helping the children by giving them some basic guidelines through the teachers and the counselor and parents also who can do at the family level. But as early as toddlers, as we see, emotional disturbances, bedwetting, inappropriate ways, thumb sucking, nail biting and even pica, eating inappropriate substances are very well known to be a reflection of certain behaviors like childhood depression. The child might be eating chalk or maybe cement, and suddenly we find that the child has abdominal pain. The pediatrician would think it is a stomach problem, but the problem is in the mind. The child is not able to cope up. There is some psychological problem in that. Probably the child is battered in the family. A lot of corporal punishment happens in the family also. So we need to integrate, and parents need to be very honest with the teacher about the family environment. If we are not able to give a healthy, happy, harmonious atmosphere in the family, I think we should take teacher into confidence and take some guidance from the school.
Now, school has a major role dealing with mental health issues and problems, and by adopting various intervention strategies as well as by adopting various prevention strategies. Now, when we talk about prevention, there can be three types of prevention: primary prevention, secondary prevention and tertiary prevention. Primary prevention, it covers the entire school, all the students, all the teachers and all the staff of the school. And the aim here is the mental health, well-being and psychological well-being of all those who are there in the school. Now, secondary prevention, it targets those students who show at-risk behavior. They can be provided group services, whereas tertiary prevention, it targets the high-risk students and who are required to be provided individualized service. Now, Dr. Nagpal, would you like to further elaborate on these kinds of prevention strategies that can be adopted in the school?
It's a very important part you have mentioned, ma'am. As you said rightly, any healthcare intervention, or for that matter, any intervention for well-being of the community, here we are talking about school mental health, has levels of primary, secondary and tertiary care. As you can see in the inverted triangle, which is a summary model by the WHO for psychosocial well-being and mental health in schools, the well-being, here we mean anybody in the school campus. It could be the school peon, the ayah, the watchman, the bus conductor, the bus driver, to the principal, the headmistress, the teachers and of course the children. Anybody in the school who is a caretaker of children should be oriented to the idea of child rights, which is mental health of children. Every child has a right to mental health and well-being. because this orientation now by law is also required, because we need to understand children. So that is a sort of a climate building of the school. We create a psychosocial well-being climate. Coming to the secondary care, as we were discussing a few minutes back, it's so important to identify the manifestations. All may not be disorders at all, as we have agreed. Out of 100, there may be 10, there may be 7, but there are 40 of them who may manifest some very latent signs and symptoms. Like all of us have depression or anxiety on a day-to-day basis, but it is not a disorder. Every human being goes through the waxing, waning of the emotions. Children will go through more because they are growing faster than us. That is the most impressionistic age. So how do you identify the early signs? How do you intervene with the help of the parent, the counselor, maybe the special educator for the learning disabilities like dyslexia, dysgraphia? This is the secondary care. And the involvement of the stakeholders like the counselor, the educator, maybe at times even the school doctor, to create a special awareness for people who are the caretakers of children. So we have recommended a lot of programs for parents of the special need children, for parents of children who are probably in special circumstances like migratory population. You see, there are so many schools which see families where there are separated families, single parent families doing marvelous work for the nation, like the children of the army officers, the bank officers. Now, they may not have the ideal family environment. So, they need to be helped a little bit extra with the guidance from the teachers and the counselors in the parent-teachers meeting. So, that is secondary care. Tertiary care, as you mentioned rightly, I'll elaborate a little bit. It is to identify a little early the nomenclature of those disorders, maybe according to DSM and according to ICD, with the help of a trained counselor who is in touch with the professional support from the community, like the psychiatrist or the child psychologist, and maybe attached to a regional hospital nearby or a hospital which has a mental health department in totality. They can be a great support for the tertiary care of the school. And of course, we agree that these are severe problems and disorders where professional management is required. For the psychosocial problem a little early in the secondary care, I would like to also mention that peer group, the peer leaders of the school, the peer educators of the school who can be trained in life skills promotion are a fabulous method of minimizing the tertiary care, because you identify the peer group can actually play the role of first aid counselors. The first aid counselor, they can talk to their peer group, they can help the children to minimize high risk behaviors like drugs or violence or even anger management, stress management. And of course, in tertiary care we need professional management. And this model, the inverted triangle model, has a very, very influential impact on the mental health services planning of the school by the principal. The school principal and the school managers have a great amount of role in seeing that all these levels become meaningfully implemented at various levels in the school.
Okay. So, as we see that like the school authority has a very great role, this thing. So, we can say that the road ahead for the school mental health, it requires increased awareness, increased sensitization, increased finance resources, and a strong will on the part of the school authorities, strong will and vision on the part of the school authorities. So, mental health is crucial in the school setup, which has a strong influence on the child's all round development. Taking care of the mental health issues in the school context will help develop a healthy personality and emotional competencies, which will lead to psychological wellness in the child. So, thank you Dr. Nagpal for joining us today.
Thank you so much. I just had to add one point. It is as a take home message, as you said rightly, the stigma which is associated with mental health and mental illness has to be a campaign in the school that do not stigmatize children who suffer from problems of mental health. It could be learning, it could be developmental problems, it could be emotional problems. Because as this beautiful poem says, that if we live with a lot of criticism, hostility, ridicule and shame because I have depression or I have gone through a little crisis in my family, I need support, I need emotional hearing, I need emotional first aid and sometimes emotional nourishment. This is what can be done without discrimination, without the stigma that is conventionally associated, especially in our culture, with mental illnesses. So do not rush to say just about lay counselors and maybe tantrics and only faith healers. It is very important to rely on the resources within the child. Every child is greatly empowered. Every child is greatly empowered to become the master of his own mental health. We need to help the child to discover that. It cannot happen if we stigmatize the mental well-being of children.
So that means we need to talk about mental health awareness at each and every level.
Yes,
okay.
it's very important.
So thank you again.
Thank you.
Yeah.